Read aloud item 1. 35 seconds, read it in your mind, and then 35 seconds in total to actually speak it into the mic. Milankovitch proposed in the early 20th century that the ice ages were caused by variations in the Earth's orbit around the Sun. For some time, this theory was considered untestable, largely because there was no sufficiently precise chronology of the ice ages with which the orbital variations could be matched. The only thing that I want all of you to take a note of when we are doing these attempts is that these are spontaneous. These are obviously in a flow, right? They're not perfect. Remember that you do not need to be perfect to get a good score. As long as you are majorly doing whatever is being done in these solo attempts, you are going to get a 79 plus, right? So it's a combination of your pronunciation, your fluency, your clarity, your ability to get the key points of the data, right? So remember, you don't have to speak everything, and in order to get it perfect, don't mess up the answer, because the test is very time dependent, and it's really completely dependent on your presence of mind, right? So just do the best you can, right? That is really, really important, that no matter what, just don't let one single word or one single pause mess up your entire speaking section. Okay. Okay, now this one here is a tough one, so I want to talk about it. These are two photographs presented to us side by side. This is a kind of describe image of the photograph type, right? So there are two types. One is you can have a single object, person, animal, or something like that showing there, in which case it's very easy. You just describe what you are seeing, that central character, and compare it with the background. But here, you have a comparative analysis, and it's important to share that in your answer if you want to get all your marks. So if you have something like this, make sure that you use comparative sort of vocabulary, and there's an image on the left, an image on the right, whatever it is showing, right? Just look for points of difference, look for points of change, right? That is actually also what you're doing in graphs and pie charts and maps, right? You're looking at the highest and lowest values, you're looking at what is different, right? So here also, if you take a minute and look at the stuff on the left, in 1890 there is a black and white picture. There is some kind of snow, right, which is present on the mountains, as well as there are those sort of glaciers and icebergs which you can see. But on the right, you can see that the glaciers have melted, the snow cover has reduced, right? Okay, and the water level has risen, right? So those are, obviously you can see that it's something which is very real in terms of climate change, right, that is happening around the world, right? So if you kind of connect it with something that you're aware of, or something that's already happening around you, right? It's going to be easier for you. You must also be aware that climate change is a topic that comes on the PTE, whether it's in the form of the passages or essay writing or even describe image, right? Okay, so being aware of the world around you will also be helpful in making sense of something, right? So just make sure that you don't need to panic. It's very sort of simple. Whatever you're being provided, it's not something which is completely out of context, right? Okay, and you don't need to use the words like climate change or global warming here, as long as you are just focusing on the image, right? I'm just telling you about the climate change part because it's a very important theme for PTE academic, and they do use that theme to make a lot of the content, right, that you see on the tests, right? So being aware of that then helps us not get shocked or not panic when we get such questions. Okay, now I'm gonna just do an attempt, so I'll just time myself, putting 40 seconds on the clock. And if you notice, in all my attempts I finish well before 40 seconds, right? Because it is important to finish your answer, and to not keep talking for 40 seconds, right? Okay, that's very, very important. Of course, more details have been covered in earlier lessons. You can check out the other sort of speaking lessons on the channel, right? But make sure that you are not speaking for 40 seconds completely, because you'll lose points there, right? You have to finish, ideally you have to finish a few seconds before. 35 seconds is a decent attempt, and then you have to click next. Don't wait, because you don't want a 5-second pause at the end. So you want to click next, and that is why you click next, right? Because if you don't, it'll just register silence, right? Which is something which we don't want, right? So this is verified. This question I get a lot, right? So please make sure that you click next in speaking as soon as you're done. Okay. The set of images provided to us contain a comparison. The photograph on the left was taken in 1890 and it is black and white, and the one on the right hand side is colored and it was taken in 2005. The first thing that is evident from a comparative analysis of the two photographs is that on the left there is a considerable amount of snow cover and ice cover in the form of glaciers, and that is absent on the right. The snow cover on the mountains is reduced, the water levels have gone up, and the icebergs and the glaciers have melted. Therefore, this is an indication of climate change. So, even if you don't mention the climate change part, that's not necessary, right? It gives a nice heading to the photograph. So if you're thinking of what is a perfect heading for this photograph, it is, the photographs show us the impact of climate change. That is obviously the perfect photograph, provided you had prepared well and you already knew this question was going to come and stuff like that, right? But even if you're not, even if you're not giving it the perfect heading, but you're finding the 3 points of contrast, that is, on the mountains and the glaciers, as well as the color difference, right? Remember, whenever there's a photograph, if there's a color difference or a contrast, you should definitely highlight that. Right, okay. So make sure that you look for points of differences, points of contrast, points of change, right? Those are the key things which the PTE tests on describe image question type. Okay.